Hey everybody, how's it going? K Miller from Martial Arts Movie Junkie here, trying a brand new segment where I sit down and talk with you guys one-on-one about some current issues and current events, or maybe just whatever's on our mind at the time. But I wanted to try this out. I'm not sure how well it's going to work, so forgive me if it's not the best. But I wanted to do it because one of you guys, one of the commenters, Jarrett, actually brought this up in one of my Finishing Blow videos, asking me how I felt about the interview film and the censorship and everything that happened around that, what I thought about it and how I felt about it. I wanted to give you guys my opinion, and hopefully you guys can give me some of your insight as well, and we can kind of bounce ideas off of each other. And this would kind of be a more of an interactive segment, because I feel like a lot of times with the Finishing Blow, I'm just like regurgitating information and I don't really get to talk with you guys. So that's what this is going to be about, just us talking one-on-one. I already said that, didn't I? Okay, so let's go ahead and cover the basic premise of what happened with the Sony hack and the interview itself, because there are some people out there who don't know what's going on. Seth Rogen and James Franco decided to make a film called The Interview, where they both play journalists or reporters, and they are hired to kill North Korean leader Kim Jong-un. Obviously, this is comedy. If you guys know Seth Rogen, you know this is not a serious film. But in North Korea, they don't take anything lightly, and so they decided that since their powerful leader was made fun of, they would hack Sony's headquarters. And now obviously this is allegedly, we don't know for sure, but the US government, FBI, everybody like that is saying that North Korea was indeed behind the hack itself. They stole about 100 terabytes of data, and they were continuously releasing information as to who's worked at Sony, how much they make, emails between different companies. Pretty much anything Sony had in their database, they were leaking it on a regular basis to get Sony to stop with the interview. Now, the only reason why Sony actually decided to withdraw their film from their Christmas Day release was because a lot of the theaters were. Now, what happened was Sony wasn't budging, and so North Korea decided to send actual threats to movie theaters around the US, saying that if they showed the film, that they would actually be facing retaliation in whatever shape or form you want to imagine it being. Now, a lot of movie theaters did not want that to happen, so they decided that they weren't going to show the film, and by the time about 80% or 90% of the theaters in the United States had declined to show the film, Sony officially said that they were not going to show the film either, and that's pretty much where we were when this comment was initially posted. Now, following that up, over the Christmas period, the movie actually did come out. It was a digital release. You can find it on Sony's market, Microsoft's market, YouTube. I'm trying to think, Amazon. There's a bunch of different outlets where you can actually purchase this film and watch it for yourself. So Sony actually came back into the light and said, no, we're not completely backing out. We need to make some of our revenue back. So we're going to release it digitally so that you guys can see what all the fuss was about. From Sony's perspective, I feel like they did the right thing, because you can't really expect people to just take that lightly. You know, if somebody is threatening a movie theater, especially a movie theater, since there's been so many things that have happened in theaters, national tragedies and whatnot, I understand where Sony's coming from. A lot of people were like, oh, they backed down, they gave in. But hindsight is always 20/20. If Sony didn't back down, and if one location, if even one of those theaters got shot up or exploded and hundreds of innocent lives were taken, then we'd be singing a very different tune. We'd be like, oh, Sony shouldn't have done that. They should have known. They should have taken this seriously. So you can't really say that it's Sony's fault for stepping down and pulling the release from theaters. I don't think that's fair to Sony. I don't think that's fair to anybody, because if something happened, if even one life was lost, I feel like they'd be singing a very, very different tune. For Sony, they're in a rock and a hard place. They really are. They got stuck in this huge turmoil and pretty much became a political just mess. You know, you've got the US versus North Korea, all these things. I mean, they could be declaring war. Everything is just bonkers. So you can't just be like, oh, they pulled the movie because they got scared and that's that. I don't think it's that simple. I feel like they did really make the right decision, and I support them, especially in the digital release. Haven't purchased it yet myself, but I'm curious about it, and I probably will check it out. But let me know if you guys have seen it, if it's even worth a Seth Rogen film or not. I do want to touch really quickly on the concept of censoring films in general. You know, everybody thinks that censoring is bad and that you should never censor a movie. And, you know, North Korea telling Sony to pull the film is them pulling their weight and making us censor films when we have freedom of speech. But censoring of movies has been around for a very, very long time. Chinese films, even to this day, are censored. That's why you see so many of the same tired concepts where it's like the Chinese are oppressed and they rise up and then they're, you know, victorious, and the Japanese or the British are evil and things like that, because they don't want to be portrayed in a bad light. And if you want to get funding, if you want your movie to be successful, you follow the rules. And so that means that you don't want your movie to be censored. I also want you guys to remember a film called Cholon, which was done by Johnny Nguyen, and it was a Vietnamese gangster film that put cops in a negative light. And guess what? It didn't get released. It never saw the light of day. I'm not saying it got a limited release or that it wasn't shown in Vietnam and that it got an international release. No, it's not leaving the country. It's done. The filming is done. The money has been paid. It's just sitting there collecting dust because of the censors. And that's exactly the reason why you can't just put one instance and just say, oh, this is bad, censoring is bad, because it's happening everywhere in the world. There's sometimes where they censor a movie to make it more pleasing to a different type of audience. For example, Pearl Harbor. That movie is not the same in Japanese as it is in the US. I guarantee you it's not the same. They had to cut a lot of the stuff that made the Japanese look bad so that they could release it in the US, because nobody in Japan is going to want to watch that film. I don't care if Josh Hartnett's in it or anybody's in it. They're not going to watch it. And so they had to censor that film to make it more pleasing to the audience. So sometimes there's a middle ground that can be reached. Other times, like with Cholon, they tried to edit it and it still did not pass. And so they felt like their creative freedom was being limited and they decided not to release the movie. So what I want you guys to realize with this little rant that I'm having here is that in the US, we take the freedom of speech for granted. We feel like we're able to make any film or say what we want without any repercussions, and that's not the case in a lot of different countries. In the US, we can make fun of the president, we can completely go against the grain and make some horrific movie that appalls everybody, and it can still be released. We may not like it, we may not be the audience for it, but it's still released. And that's the difference. There's no governing being that's saying, no, you can't make this movie, no, you can't put us in the negative light, or no, you can't make fun of the president of the United States. We can do what we want, and I think we don't realize how limited a lot of these other countries are. Even in Asia, even somewhere as big as China, they're still struggling for their own creative rights so that they can make a film that they're passionate about, and they can tell a story that they think will move the audience in any way, shape, or form. They want that impact. And you get severely limited when you're told what you can and cannot create, what kind of story you can make, or what kind of action you can have in a movie. It limits everything tremendously. All right, so I feel like I've stood on a soapbox for a little bit and kind of told you probably what you expected to hear, but what do I really think about this? How do I feel about this whole censorship thing? It's hard to say. With the Sony situation, I feel like they did handle it in the right way. I feel like there's no other way that you could really deal with that without having any repercussions. Either way you do it, you're going to have people who are going to be booing you or cheering you on. So it is what it is. So the bottom line is this. I don't think there's a single movie out there that's more important than a human life. Whether it's a Seth Rogen comedy or a Jackie Chan, Jet Li, Donnie Yen, Tony Jaa collaboration extravaganza, it's not worth the risk of human life. Censorship should always be kept at a minimum if it does exist. I wish it didn't, but I do realize that around the world it's not that simple. But censorship prevents people from telling a story, from telling something unique, telling something truthful almost. And that really stifles the market. It prevents people from connecting with one another and learning more about each other. And maybe there's people out there who want to hear that message or want to see a film that really connects with them. And when you censor it, when you say, no, you can't do a film like this, or you can't tell that story, you're keeping people from connecting with each other and engaging with one another. And I think that's the true loss when it comes to censorship. Okay, so there you have it. That is the end of my first little ranty video. I hope you guys heard something meaningful. Please let me know in the comments what you guys thought about this video, as well as Sony themselves. Did they make the right decision? Should they have taken a different course of action? I promise you, I'm not going to censor you or delete you or anything like that. Try to be respectful to each other, though. There are going to be people who have different opinions than you, and that's absolutely fine. That's what freedom of speech is about. I don't want to censor anybody in this video, so let's keep it cool. Let's keep it fun and engaging. And let me know what you guys think about this. If you guys have any other questions, tell me about them, and I'll be sure to think about what I want to say, and hopefully I don't make a fool of myself, but I really do appreciate it. Thank you, Jarrett, for the opportunity to talk about this subject. I had a lot of fun making this video, and I hope it's as fun to watch it as well. So anyways, I'm going to cut my rant here. Thank you guys so much for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed, and I'll see you guys in the next video.